as part of this rant, I wanted to do part of this is why can't they do the traditional Supergirl? Why can't we have an innocent, a happy, charming Supergirl? Why do we need a punk, a bratty Supergirl? Going back to the first Supergirl movie, it's the same thing that you'll see all throughout. Now, in the first Supergirl movie, the first time she comes to Earth, she's accosted by a couple of these goons, as you see right here, who are taking a little bit of a unwanted interest in her. And that goes back to the beginning of Supergirl in live action. It seems to me that they don't want innocence. And Supergirl is supposed to be the epitome of innocence. I've always called her like the kid sister superhero. Superman is sort of like the father figure. Wonder Woman's like the mother figure. Batman is sort of like a steady uncle, I guess. But Supergirl was sort of like the kid sister. And, like Robin was like the kid brother, I guess. And the idea was that she's an innocent. And in film and even in current day comics, I think they won't allow for innocence. And I think they want to ruin that. Now, this goes back even to 1984 with this film, where we did have to have the token scene where Supergirl's an innocent and these guys are going to accost her because, you can't have anything pure and innocent in this world without someone trying to take advantage of it. And of course, it being 1984, these creeps got what they deserved. Then we go to the animated series. I mean, well, it wasn't the animated series. It was the animated film Apocalypse, where Supergirl is first introduced to the world in animation, and she's completely naked. And of course, we have a similar scene here where there's a group of guys, and one guy apparently tries to take advantage of her. This is what I mean about how Supergirl is portrayed as the epitome of innocence. And then that story basically goes so far as to show Darkseid corrupting her. Now, we're sort of, they wisely sort of left that in between the lines. We never really know to what extent that happened. But again, this is something that I see as a problem. And I think the reason that we're going to the bratty Supergirl is they're circumventing this. They're circumventing that she's an innocent, that she is bound to be taken advantage of because she's an innocent and she's so young and pretty and this and that. That they're skipping over that to give her some grit, that she's not a pushover, that she's not a goody two-shoes, that she's not a girly girl. And I think that's a mistake. Now, in live action, I think we also had Smallville Supergirl. Again, I mean, she's a lovely girl, but I felt like this is when they were starting in live action to sort of give us that hot to trot Supergirl. You know what I mean? She's not trying to be the goody two shoes on the farm. She's wanting to acclimate with the other girls and act like a normal American girl. And again, I think this was a step in the wrong direction. No offense intended to what's her name? Laura Vandervoot. That's her name. And of course, my favorite Supergirl, which was the closest we ever got to Supergirl, which is Melissa Benoist, who really carried this show, even when it was horrible, which it pretty much got bad quick and then got worse over time. I think, if I remember correctly, the last season or two kind of elevated a little bit because they had John Cryer as Lex Luthor, which I think kind of made for a strong villain. But anyway, she did have the appearance of being a good-natured sweetheart of a girl. She was not trying to be overly brusque with people. The first season had a little bit of a feminist bent, so of course it's not like there wasn't any of those kind of elements in the show. But I mean, I feel like they really kept her as close to the original incarnation of the character as possible. And again, I feel like they just don't want to do that anymore because they're afraid that it's like, it's one of those things I call that trope of despised virginity, I call it, where you can't have someone who's an obvious virgin remain one for long in movies or TV. I always go back to, I think, the most obvious version of that trope was in Star Trek The Next Generation, where they had Mr. Data, and, they had to answer that question as quickly as possible in the first episode of the series, first regular season episode. And I feel like with Supergirl, that's their concern. It's like, she's too innocent. We can't have her, be a goody goody. She can't be a good girl. She has to have an edge. She has to have, you know, um, a bratty streak. You know what I mean? So again, this is not my Supergirl, but I feel like it's worth a chance. I mean, I'm going to see the film. I'm going to give it a shot, and hopefully, it'll surprise me. But like I said, I think, judging by this trailer alone, they're giving her a character arc, and I think it will be palatable enough for the masses to sort of return Supergirl by the end of the movie to what we traditionally think of her, because we've gone on this path with her. At least that's my hope, that they're going to bring her around to being the Supergirl we all know and love by the end of the film. And it's one of those things that probably didn't need to happen in a film. It's I guess what the term is nowadays is surf Dracula, which is, we want the happy and innocent and, perky Supergirl, but we have to wait until the end of the movie where we've had to have her grow and experience things in order to get her in a place where she's a happy, perky, lovable, young superhero. But we'll just have to wait and see, I suppose. And so until next we meet, this is Johnnie Torch reminding you once again, keep the flame burning brightly, and I'll be with you again real soon.